Today is the last competitive day of professional golf in 2017, and we begin out east. Justin Rose held a 3-shot lead when the weather-plagued third round of the Indonesian Masters was called on Saturday. Stay tuned to find out if he could keep his hot streak going to close out the year with another victory. We have full highlights from today's final round. Legends of the game are in action at the PNC Father-Son Challenge here in Orlando. Our experts will teach what you can learn from their games.
Now, remember what Jack did. What's Lee going to do? Probably not get inside him. Well, how about it? How about it?
We'll take you inside the ropes as the teams prepare for today's final round. And in a field full of major champions, one man's records stand above the rest. The Golden Bear and his grandson opened with a 68 on Saturday before sitting down with our very own Gary Williams. You don't want to miss this conversation with the living legend.
First time you beat him.
I don't know
every time.
You know, if you can't play golf, you can sure say, I know that.
That and so much more on Morning Drive today, Sunday, December 17th, 2017. Yes, good morning. Cara Banks alongside Charlie Reimer, Paige McKenzie, Lauren Thompson will be with us as well. And it is December 17th. What happens on December 18th, Charlie?
I become officially old, age 50. I might be the only 50-year-old fifth grader on the planet, though. I can tell you that. But they say, what, 50 is the new 35 or something like that?
I don't know if they say that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying to myself.
I am actually disappointed it's not today. There's typically a cake involved when anybody in our family has a birthday, so no cake today for Charlie's 50th.
Well, Lee Trevino said I need to eat some chocolate pie, so maybe I'll run into that tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay, well, last day in your 40s, you enjoy it, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of
Thank
celebrations
you.
tomorrow. Time now, though, to say good morning to our very own Mrs. Claus in studio.
Ho, ho, ho!
Feeling the festiveness of the holiday season, and yeah, 5 decades almost of the big timer. Lord help us all. Well, it is Sunday. The holidays are upon us. 'Tis the season to put others before yourself. And check this out. Mr. 58, aka Jim Furyk, the major champion, along with his wife Tabitha, visited the Hubbard House in Jacksonville on Friday, and they delivered bags full of toys that PGA Tour staffers bought and wrapped for underprivileged children. And this is a man that fully uses his place and platform in the public eye to do good. Cara Banks, just another example of why we're so proud to cover the game of golf and the players that are so good at giving back.
Yeah, and at this time of year, it is the season, isn't it, to give? And I think a lot of people get more pleasure in giving gifts to those in need than they do from receiving.
Well, Jim and Tabitha Furyk, they're great folks, and I've known Jim going back to early college days, and I remember the week that Jim met Tabitha out on the road on the PGA Tour, and I'm gonna tell you what, they're the same people that they would be if they hadn't had this tremendous financial success in the world of golf. If they were just normal folks working normal jobs, they'd still be trying to figure out ways to help folks. It's a great credit to our game that Jim Furyk is one of our amazing professionals.
And not only this time of year, they seem to spread good cheer throughout the year and all the good work that they do.
He was actually scheduled to be in the field at this week's PNC Father-Son Challenge, but has a shoulder injury that he's trying to rest up. But let's get to what is happening on tour. And Justin Rose made 5 birdies and an eagle to shoot a front 921 and start a 59 watch at the Indonesian Masters earlier today. He would ultimately post a 62, getting to 29 under par and securing an 8-stroke victory. So let's show you his highlights from the final round. And we will start with his tee shot, Charlie, at the par 3 7th from just over 200 yards.
And ladies, I'm going to tell you that from this distance, 209 yards, which is either 5 or 6 iron for Justin Rose over the last 10 or 12 years, he's done this as much as anyone on the planet. He's as good a ball striker as we have seen in the game.
Had to play 28 holes today to get it done. He would tap that one in for birdie. Now an eagle chance, Paige, at 9.
Yeah, and you might notice throughout these highlights, these aren't highlights of the field. This isn't highlights of what happened to everybody. This is highlights of what happened to Justin Rose because he took a commanding lead.
Well, that made him make the turn in 29, Charlie, and the watch really was on the very next hole, a long birdie attempt at 10.
Well, this is what happens when the great ball striker finds some comfort on the greens and starts believing that he can hold more than his fair share. You end up with a runaway victory.
Yeah, no putting struggles no more. Moves to 8 under for the round, 27 under for the tournament. Page will move ahead to 13.
Yeah, and you'll notice barely made the fairway there. Well, 13 out of 14 fairways on the day and 16 out of 18 greens, so a tremendous ball striking day as well.
Right in that range. That's another 205-yard shot. It's so much fun to watch someone like Justin, get the great contact, the great divot with a 5 or a 6 iron, and just the sound, if you're close enough to hear, it's a different sound than what you hear from other professionals.
And that was quite funny. You saw him joking with the crowd a little bit, trying to line up his tap-in to shoot a final round 62 and finish the tournament at 29 under par, good for an 8-shot win. Page mentioned those statistics, only 26 putts on the day as well. Now, as you take a look at this leaderboard and the commanding win that Justin had, just take a look notably at the man in 5th position, Kiradech Aphibarnrat. He's a 3-time winner on the European Tour, and he eagled the final hole to finish alone in 5th, which projects him to move into 49th in the world at the end of the year, with the top 50 in the last ranking of 2017, earning invitations to the Masters at April. That is such a neat story. He played alongside Justin Rose today, who said to him as they walked off 18, "I'll see you at Augusta." So good job, Kiradech. Now, speaking of Rose, yesterday we were reminding you that he'd finished inside the top 10 in his last 9 worldwide starts. Well, let's shorten that to his last 6 starts and just take a look at these statistics. 3 wins, 96 under par total, 7 rounds of 66 or better with a scoring average of 67.5. He might be the world number 6, but I think it's fair to say he is one of, if not the hottest player on the planet right now. Meanwhile, here in Orlando, in their debut at the event, Angel Cabrera and his son, Angel Jr., shot a 13 under par 59 to take a 1-stroke lead ahead of the final round of the PNC Father-Son Challenge. It is a scramble format, so let's show you highlights from yesterday. And we will begin with the great Jack Nicklaus, Charlie, his second here at 9.
And I think this is the toughest hole on the golf course, and this is the toughest hole location. It's tucked over on that left-hand side. There's a little bit of a ridge there that protects it along with that bunker, but Mr. Nicklaus did see any of that. He just took it right to the bucket.
Well, he was playing alongside Lee Trevino. What you can do, I can do better. Sounds here, I think, Paige?
I think so. In the hundreds of rounds that I'm sure they've played against each other, they've gone back and forth a lot. It didn't stop today.
That's cool stuff right there.
That is pretty cool. So they were both, nestled them up, they were both birdie those, and a little celebration between the two legends as well. That is what we love to see. Now, we'll move ahead to Stuart Sink playing with Reagan. His dad's second shot at 7.
And Stuart's showing some signs of playing some pretty solid golf on the PGA Tour this year, and boy, that was a heck of a play.
Yeah, keeps it within 5 feet. They would birdie to get to 4 under. Meanwhile, Tom Kite playing with his son David here at 12.
And there's some confidence right there. Take the flagstick out, just roll it in.
That's the first par 3. You reach on the back 9 at the Ritz-Carlton, gets him to 7 under. Charlie will move ahead to 13, his second at the short par 4.
Yeah, if your name is Kite, you're going to be really good with your wedges. Really good. And it's hard to do any better than this one right here. How about that?
Woo! Back to back.
Holds it out for Eagle. Back-to-back holeouts, as Paige said, gets them to 9 under. They would shoot a 62 and finish at 10 under. Now the O'Mearas here at the par 5 third.
This is just pretty. We'll let it speak for itself.
Wow. Look how happy Sean is. I love it. What a great partnership they are. They've played in this event several times. That would be an eagle to get to 4 under through their first 3 holes. We'll move ahead now, Charlie, to 18.
Yeah, and Mark is loving playing his son's tee shot. They're about 60 yards by him, and Mark came in here from just 179 second to that par 5. He'd like to get his opportunity to have that short at club into par 5s more often, I can assure you of that.
So the eagle 3, and that 6 iron led to an eagle at 18. That's a nice way to finish your round. What about the Cabreras at 9?
It is fun to see the sons stepping up in this format as well. You mentioned the long drive from Sean O'Meara. There's a beautiful pitch shot from on hill.
So Angel and Angel Jr. do lead just by 1 single shot over Mark and Sean O'Meara, who are playing in this event for the 11th time compared to the Cabreras, who are playing for the very first time. The O'Mearas have never finished better than 3rd, and they are currently, as you can see, in 2nd place at 12 under, whilst the defending champions got off to a pretty good start. David Duval and Nick Karavites are tied for 3rd with Bernhard and Jason Langer at 11 under. As we take a look at the second page of the leaderboard as well, the Trevinos at 8 under, just pipped Nicklaus's Jack and GT are at 4 under, but they are currently now on the driving range preparing for their final round. So let's take you inside the ropes at PNC Father-Son Challenge, where we will find the Nicholas pairing that go off at 9:12 a.m. Eastern. They will be playing alongside the Jensens. This is neat to see Jack watching his grandson GT.
Absolutely, it is. They probably weren't happy with the round yesterday, just a 4 under par, and I'm sure Mr. Nicholas saw a thing or two from GT yesterday. They might have chatted with him after the round, maybe a little bit at dinner, maybe a little bit in the warm-up, maybe not rebuilding anything, Paige, but maybe he just saw a little bit of something, with his grandson for the first time in front of the TV cameras with a lot of people around, that one little tip here or there, making a little refinement he thinks might help him be more comfortable today.
I was going to say, I think for a lot of the sons out here that aren't used to playing in front of the cameras, used to playing in this kind of environment, I think that first day of nerves, it's good to get it out of the way, under the belt, and I expect that the scores probably will be lower tomorrow,
yes.
or tomorrow, today.
Today, especially, at age 15, and, you've got that body that he's got. I mean, you look at him, he's strong. I'm betting that GT probably got out of his normal rhythm a little bit yesterday, probably felt some adrenaline, and maybe today things will slow down just a little bit more for him, and maybe see, a little bit better play from these two, because I can tell you, Mr. Nicholas, he is enjoying his time here. A lot of his family's here, but he wouldn't be happy with shooting another 4 under today.
That's a good point, Charlie. I think for a lot of the pros out here, some of them maybe past their competitive days week in and week out, but once you get inside the ropes, there is that sense of pride, there is that competitive spirit that comes out. It's a little automatic, even though they may have been away from the game a little bit.
Well, it's interesting as well, because Jack only plays one of the Pro-Am days on Friday, so they really only had probably one full practice round together around this golf course, meaning that, Saturday was really his second day teeing it up. It's under the gun, and no doubt expect to see GT a little bit more relaxed today. Well, we speak about how talented the field is that has assembled at the Ritz-Carlton Orlando Grand Lakes this week, and just in case you weren't sure, here's a little reminder: 9 World Golf Hall of Famers, 57 major championship wins. We know Jack has contributed greatly to those. 13 players have won the Players' Championship. Just under 290 wins on the PGA Tour, 115 on the PGA Tour Champions, 76 Ryder Cup appearances, and 38 President's Cup appearances. Well, my goodness, it must be a tough crowd to mix with, but someone's got to do it. And the man tasked with that role this week is our colleague Gary Williams. He's on site at the Ritz-Carlton. Good morning, G-Dub.
Good morning, Cara. You're exactly right. And it's a good thing you didn't come to me right off the top of the show, because Greg Norman was pelting me with golf balls from about 30 yards away.
I'm glad that you have survived that little endurance from Greg Norman. But let's start with the final group who will be going off today, Gary. The Cabreras and the O'Mearas will be the very last to tee off at 10:48 a.m. Eastern. Do you have a sense of who would have the advantage out of those two? Because their history at the event is very different.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and I'll start with that. The experience certainly goes to Mark and Sean, but when you look at Angel Cabrera, and there's a great line that our good friend Billy Harmon said about his golf swing: it is absent of fear or thought. His son is exactly the same way. He's a very polished player, and I think overall I would give a slight advantage to the Cabreras, even though they're only competing here for the first time.
That is interesting. We'll have to watch and see. You can't help but feel for the O'Mearas, who've had those 2 top 3 finishes trying to break through, but it will be impressive no matter who, as we say, secure those belts today. Now, there are 20 pairings in the field, Gary. So is there another grouping going out today that's maybe a little bit further back that stands out that we should watch for in coverage?
Absolutely. The Faldos and the Normans. Consider the decade of dominance those two players had, Nick winning those 6 major championships, and Greg all those weeks at world number 1. And of course, it was 21 years ago they had that historic final round of the Masters in 1996, where Faldo embraced Greg Norman after Nick shot a flawless 67 to win that tournament. And it was one of the most poignant moments we've seen in golf from two guys who were dominant but didn't necessarily have, a very close relationship. That is history right there. Faldo and Norman playing on a Sunday, I'll take it. And by the way, one other footnote. I talked to Lee Jansen, who is paired with the Nicklases, and I asked Lee the last time he played with Jack. And he said it was 1999 at the Memorial. And he said, but we were paired together In the second round of the 93 Masters, they both shot 67 in the opening round. They played the final group. So then I asked Connor, his son, have you ever played with Mr. Nicklaus? And he said no. And Lee's response was, we like to look at it that Jack has never played with Connor, which I thought was a funny line.
That's cute, particularly seeing as Connor is trying to pursue a Hollywood acting career now based out in LA. Gary, thank you. We appreciate it. We'll look forward to watching coverage later, and I know we'll be back with you again shortly. Well, another pairing who is in the field is the Harringtons. Let's just remind you what happened in 2007. Padraig, devastated, thought that a double bogey at 18 had cost him his first major championship. There's his wife Caroline with his son Paddy, trying to hold him back, but couldn't hold him back forever, running into his dad's arms in a straightaway. The guilt, I suppose, the upset is gone, and he has a big smile on his face. We know that he came back to beat Sergio Garcia in a playoff and win the Open at Carnoustie. Well, now, 10 years on, Paddy Harrington is teeing it up alongside his father in the red and black Tiger style today. They'll be teeing off, Charlie, at 9:24 a.m. Eastern time, and it's pretty cool to see how things come full circle.
Yes, definitely. No doubt about that, Cara. And you know what, Paige, it's no surprise to me at all to see young Harrington using a drill that's a little bit offbeat, just sort of like his dad has always been a little, offbeat with his drills or devices, or, sometimes you see him with like a rubber band wrapped around his knees. And I had a chance to speak with Harrington about that some, and he said he's the kind of player that he has to have like training aids or drills and constantly reinforce that. He goes, I just can't, try and change my path to the inside. He goes, I need to have something there that is a physical barrier, something I can see or work with. He said, some people can just do it. He goes, I can't. So it's no surprise at all to see his son working on a drill that's trying to accomplish the same thing.
And I happen to love this drill. I've used it before. It's about getting your weight transfer back to impact. You can see he steps up, puts that left foot there, and then steps through on his downswing. I love that when you're trying to get through impact. You don't want to feel like you're hitting up on it. You want to hit down on it and through. It's a simple drill. It's something you can even do before a round. This is before a competitive round for a player that doesn't play in a lot of golf tournaments. It's a good way to work on your rhythm and timing as well, Charlie.
Yeah, I love it. Let's see if we can see one right there from, you could just sort of see the little bit of foot movement right there from Harrington, and I like seeing that. I mean, some people like to keep everything very static. I like a little bit of movement in the golf swing, especially with the feet, and it's certainly something we've seen over the years from Mr. Nicklaus, and it's worked pretty well for him. Great stuff, Paige. Right now, let's go over and check in with LT, who has our tee sheet.
You got it, Charlie. Well, coming up today, after an opening 68 with his grandson GT at the PNC Father-Son Challenge, we're about to take everything we know from Jack then and now, and not only learn from the Golden Bears putting philosophy, you're going to hear his early reflections on the week and why one of his favorite highlights didn't even happen on the golf course. We're also going to be bringing you along to crash around with fellow avid amateurs just like yourself who recently won a tee time with the world #1. What would the day be like if you were the lucky recipients? Also, what other activities did they try out at Streamsong Resort? Trust us, they got the full treatment. Even see a moment that brought someone tears to their eyes. And speaking of raw emotions, we're bringing you the story of Billy Hurley III and heartbreak from over 2 years back. You might remember the press conference plea to find his missing father and then the tragic ending. So today, you're going to take a seat with the PGA Tour winner as he opens up on who his father was and why it's important to look ahead. It's all on the way this Sunday morning. We're honored to have you with us as Cara Banks takes you back to the scene at the PNC Father-Son Challenge.
Yeah, Lauren, thank you. We're going to go back inside the ropes and find the GOAT, the greatest of all time, the 18-time major champion, Jack Nicklaus. You don't get to see this very often, so it's a special day when you do. Not long until he goes to the tee. He'll be playing with his grandson GT alongside the Jansons today.